West German endurance racer Klaus Ludwig dominated a record entry on Sunday to win the 300-kilometer Budweiser Camel Grand Prix at Laguna Seca Raceway in California, a part of the 24th annual Monterey Triple Crown. Starting from the second row in the 24-car field, Ludwig put his Porsche out front for the first 54 laps of the 1.9-mile Laguna Seca road course before making the one pit stop he would need to go the full 98-lap distance. As the other contenders pitted, the lead shifted from the Porsche of Chip Robinson to the Jaguar of Hurley Haywood and John Morton to the Chevy Corvette driven by Cyril van der Merwe. For 25 laps, Ludwig shadowed van der Merwe, then passed him with just 15 laps remaining to take the lead for good.
You know, I saw him lapping in lap 445 or so, and I was pretty sure that he couldn't go for the rest of the race without refueling, but you never know. And then I was thinking, if he tries, he will run out of tires. So I just waited, and he ran out of tires, and then I could pass him easily.
A final fuel stop by the Corvette erupted in flames briefly, but the fire was doused in time for van der Merwe to hold off Robinson for second place. It was Ludwig's second straight victory at Laguna Seca, achieved at a record average speed of over 108 miles per hour. He becomes the sixth different winner in as many races this season in the International Motorsports Association Camel GT Series. The Camel Lights class for smaller prototype cars at Laguna Seca was won by local favorite Don Bell in a Pontiac Fiero. The win was Bell's fourth in 6 starts this year. In other events over the Laguna Seca weekend, actor and race driver Paul Newman suffered engine problems in his Nissan during the GTO race for big-engine production-based sports cars. Newman stood by and watched as Toyota-mounted Chris Cord passed the Chevy Camaro of Wally Dallenbach Jr. with just 1 lap to go. The win was Cord's second in as many races. The GTU class for smaller production cars went to defending class champion Tom Kendall, who won his first victory of the year in a Mazda RX-7. The International Sedan race at Laguna Seca was won by Parker Johnstone in a Honda Acura, his second triumph in 3 starts. And the Kodak Copiers Pit Crew competition witnessed an innovation this past weekend as the Electromotive team out of California pushed their 900 horsepower Nissan to the victory. IMSA will divide its racing classes during the rest of the month of May. The production-based GTO and GTU classes will race next on Sunday, May 17th at Firebird Raceway in Chandler, Arizona. The prototype cars, the world's fastest sports cars, will appear next at Lime Rock, Connecticut, Monday, May 25th. From Laguna Seca Raceway in Monterey, California, this is Bob Varsha.
Okay. Hit the windshield. Hope no down what happened.
Cable, jeez. Professionals. All right, Doc, West Palm was a great event for you guys last year. I'm sure despite the wildness of that finish, you have some pretty good memories of that race.
Well, certainly. You know, that's such a unique area to go to. West Palm is the epitome of the rich and famous lifestyles, and it kind of fits in with the type of cars we're running, you know, the exotic GTP cars. And going into that race, you know, I thought, well, how is we ever going to fit, you know, racers, which are supposedly greasy fingernails and all that, how are we going to fit into such a community as West Palm Beach? Well, we fit great, believe me.
Tell me about that finish last year. I mean, you guys were still developing your car, but man, that thing really proved its worth in that race.
Well, that was kind of a unique situation, and what really won that race for us was the pit stop. You know, the guys just kept us up front during that I think it was a caution when we made our change, and the caution was long enough that we didn't have to make that last short pit stop, which was, you know, we were right on the border. And, you know, if we'd had to run another 2 laps, we would have been out of fuel. So it was very marginal, the whole deal. And what really worked for us there was the little V6 had tremendous torque. And It had a short power band, which is something we're not happy about, but it has a lot of torque. And with the stop-and-go turns that are at West Palm Beach, it worked to our favor. Once we got in front, we were extremely difficult to get by.
Take me through that last lap as you best remember it.
Well, you know, I knew that it was going to go green. I mean, I drug my feet everywhere as much as I could because it was a time race, and I thought if I can just slow the pace down enough, I'll force them to give me the checkered flag under the caution. Well, they weren't going to have any bit of that. I mean, we come around, and I was ready for it. I saw the green, and I took off. The problem we had there was our front tires would get cold during the cautions, and you could get the rears up by spinning them. You could get them up on temperature, but the fronts you were dead with. So you go into the corners and you turn it as far as you could, and it just push right straight to the wall. Well, the only control for understeer is to get out of the throttle. And God, you didn't want to do that because that meant they were going to pass you down the chute if you had to let off. So it was just, I'd go in, stop the car, and nail it, and just spin the rear tires. At that point, I knew it was one lap. I didn't care what kind of shape they were in. And we got most of the way around, and we were 2 turns from the end. I thought, you know, I got him now because I'm fat. I can be real fat. They can't get by me. And all of a sudden, Derek come up and blasted me in the side and moved me over into the wall. And I thought, what's he done this for now? And in the scramble, it knocked me off boost and everything, and I had to go back to first gear, and so I lost time, and the Jaguar slipped by. And I got back in as quick as I could, and I figured Darren was going to go by too. But Darren had his own problems, and I drove off of Brian's blind spot, so he wasn't sure where I was. Otherwise, the race was his. And when he hesitated just for an instant, not turning into the corner, I just slammed my car up in there. And, you know, there was some bumping and pushing going on. But at that point, I thought all's fair in love and war since I got knocked off the last turn. And I just slipped in, and I locked him up, slid by the turn, bumped Brian, which turned me into the corner, and I still couldn't quite get the front end around or the back end around. And Darren come up and hit me in the back end, knocked me around, and I took off.
A lot of concern about first-time courses. Your impression of that very unique West Palm layout?
Well, I think you know, it's not one of our favorites, and I say that with some trepidation because when you win, it's a favorite racetrack, but it's a very difficult track for this type of car. You know, the turns are so sharp. There's no place that we can really open them up and show what these cars are about, so it's kind of a stop and go. And it's not really that much fun. It's still racing because you got to go do the same thing against the other guys. I think what impressed us most was the organization of West Palm. They really had their act together. If I remember right, we had one delay because of some chain link fencing or something like that. But once we got beyond that point, it really went pretty smooth. And you know, there was mistakes made, but they've all been very responsive. Lloyd has done a wonderful job down there. He comes and he asks us questions, and of course we always complain all the time. More is never enough. You remember that, Lloyd? But he's been responsive as I think he can be. And probably what puts it over the hump for us is the enthusiasm that we saw in the West Palm area. The people are just great.
If you had to send a message to the people of West Palm from the winning team in the first Grand Prix of Palm Beach, what would it be?
We'll be back, and we're going to try and do the same thing. We would rather make it a boring race for you where we just dominate, but we both know that it won't be that way. We just hope to be up front again.
Thanks a lot, Doc. That'll tickle him. But I don't remember an awful lot about last year's GTO race at West Palm. Tell me about it. I know any race you win is an important one for you.
Well, it was late in the day. Fortunately, the weather held, and the nice thing about going down to West Palm is that the whole area is so enthused about it. I mean, all the local merchants and all the people from around that area, they really come out and they get enthused for the race. And for the first year last year, I think things come off very, very well. You know, generally speaking, it's very hard to put on a street race, and I think they did a super job.
Can I ask you to take your sunglasses off? Now, you're not going to be driving the GTO cars down there this year. But you know those cars well. The GTP cars, quite frankly, that's not quite a race course for them, I don't think. But it seems to me that the GTO cars can really have fun on a race course like West Palm?
It was fun. I'm not sure if they're going to change it all this year. Last year I enjoyed the course. It was a little tight, but it was, I don't know, for me it was kind of fun. It was kind of nice on the short turns and quick switchbacks and stuff. And the hairpins are kind of touchy coming on and off the straightaway, but I don't know, that added a little bit more excitement for the races. The GTO is going to be a tough race, especially this year. I mean, the series. I mean, we have all the top fighters out there. We have Ford, Toyota, Chevrolet, just to name a few. And then we also have different tire companies involved now: Goodyear, Firestone, and of course Bridgestone. So it's going to be a really interesting race. I mean, whose car is going to work well and whose tire is going to work well down there. I mean, that's always adds quite a bit of excitement to the weekend.
Having the exposition center right smack in the middle of the racetrack, it seemed to be as neat because it lets crowds get out there and get real close to the race cars and to the drivers. How do you feel about that kind of situation?
Well, last year they needed a little bit more crowd control. It was nice having all the people in the pits and stuff, but it made it tough when you were trying to take your cars in and out of the pits. If they had a little bit more crowd control down there, I think it'd be better. But it's just nice to see the enthusiasm of all the spectators out there. There's so many times when you go to racetracks and the spectators are generally so-so, but I'd say over the past couple of years, and especially down in the Florida area, that the support from all the spectators has just been unbelievable.
If you had to send a message to the crowd that you won in front of last year, what would it be?
Come out and root for our GTP car. I mean, I don't know. I might be in a GTO car down there. I mean, things change quite often here at Roush Racing, but just come out and root for us.
That leads me to another question. With the car constructed as it is now, do you think it's a course that might favor your machine, or will you guys be turbocharged by then?
That's a real good question. I don't even know that one. But I think for a V8 car, it should adapt itself very, very nicely. We'll have a little problem getting down a straight, just like anywhere we have good horsepower. But as far as being nimble and quick through the turns, I think the V8 lends itself real nicely.
Great. Thanks a lot.
So we have a Porsche up against the Nissan, two very powerful automobiles in GT prototype racing for IMSA Camel GT competition. Your children are standing by with me to confirm the times that are going to be taken. 1,000 horsepower category. Getting ready to go. Today's revolution on the Honda Motorsports automobile. IMSA officials now still giving the signal to say that they're going to go. They're getting ready to go. On this side comes up a look on the drivers. Phoenix, Arizona. I'm sure we'll see we'll hear from you Kickoff, 1380 on the AM dial. Again, an update on racing activity taking place this weekend. Qualifying for the Laguna 500 is completed, starting on pole position in record time with a lap at 212.809 miles per hour is Bill Elliott in the Ford Thunderbird. Starting alongside of him in that front row will be Bobby Allison driving the Buick. Son Davey Allison will start.
It's like if that ship's looks good now. Hang on. Good year?
Well, actually in the shade, huh? Alright, well, let's try that.
Okay.
Line them up again. Yeah, this Run it back to attention scale. Hitting on your side out?
No. Now?
Okay, now, is it hitting that one too?
Yeah.
Alright, then just slide them out. Straight out. Clear? Out now, number 86, London driving. That's the Porsche 962.
The Porsches have been looking last year then for the last couple of days and showed that they have the speed and Chevrolet Corvette over the side. Turbo, take the The 09 car, best time, a minute 4:959 of 105.297. That puts the 09 second fastest. In Camel lights, light runs, do very fine.
Yes, the 12-point car.
lap on L.
Carlson said he was going to break mine, but I haven't seen him.
You're right. One price not reserved, but the 45 car, Jim Crawford in the
Nazi Road Mountain Wood Cup at 58.334. So our fourth fastest, 409. I guess
Anybody else come? Yeah.
Bob, you take that bottle back there.
Somewhere down here, these guys got out. He went a lap, and this guy was one in front of him, so they gave him 2 more. He got 1 green, and then he got 2 more green. Then I'm pretty sure that 45 went before 67. I got the order. No, 67 went before 45. 22, 60, 85, 14. Take it around. Yeah, get it back in there. It's 22. 52, 22 on the way.
Oh, okay, okay. So who's it? So the way I have it,
How are we?
he's on the pole. That's 1. 2.
Do you know if on your go lap you hit the rev limiter in second or third? Okay. Because it bumps the front.
75, Tom Kendall, who qualified in record time in GTO.
Quick point of information, we're at the top of the course, speaking of the GTU class, we were talking about how Kendall might be able to catch up to Fisher with the pace lap. If you notice, there are 4 to 5 cars between him and just an informant that Tom Kendall is putting in that number 75 cars. Just punch that into the computer and that takes care of that. A surprise though, Bob Earl in the number 4 car is On the back, so they're bringing him in as quickly as possible to back out to the course number 53. He goes out once again. That's another GTO car. That's Chuck Price and John Longmire in the Chaz Junior Racing Porsche 924. That's another GTO car. Long pit stop, even under caution for the Bob Earl Pontiac Hero GTP Valvoline automobile. They were looking under the right side rear when he came in with the doors open. He did not get out of the car. He stayed in the machine. He'll go back in the back just a little bit. He goes to the back of the pack behind the Nissan Skix Turbo Pace car.
they're sweeping up some benefits. It was a long stop. They were looking underneath the cars you mentioned on the right side, possibly a suspension pump or something. We don't know. We're not scheduled in lengthy pit stop that will cost Bob Earl dearly. He was at least 1 lap down.
I don't give the media. I'll tell you what. The media's got a job ahead of them.
All right, okay. Roger, I suppose anytime you win at a racetrack, you got to feel pretty good about it. So I suppose that first ever Palm Beach Grand Prix will hold some pretty good memories for you.
Obviously, you know, we won the race last year. It was our first event for that location. I think the local people did an outstanding job. And I understand that this year there's going to be some improvements made to the racetrack, so we kind of look forward to going over there.
The big P cars and the GTO cars are all fine, but on a tight race course like that, I think that's really when the GTU cars really get a chance to show what they can do.
I hate to do that to you.
What's that?
This is a GTO car.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You being the winner of the.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Can you correct that?
No, that's all right. No problem. Yeah, we know you're going to be driving the Mazda and GTO this year.
Okay, shoot.
But last year you were the GTU winner, and don't hesitate to tell us that that now you've moved up to the GTO Mazda and you're expecting more. This is television. We could change it any way we want. But well, for that matter, the GTU and the GTO cars get a chance on those tight turns where maybe the GTP cars might get a little hung up and slowed down. You guys can pretty much get on it, can't you?
Well, that's true. The big difference is on the type of track like is in West Palm, the speed differential is not as great. So the lap times between a GTU car and the faster cars are not like you see here or some of the faster tracks. So it gives the crowd a good show. Even the faster cars can't get away from the slower cars as much. There's the big advantage of a city course or a very tight racetrack. It gives the spectator a constant racing show. And I think very definitely at West Palm Beach they've accomplished that.
Tell us about this new GTO car that you're going to bring to West Palm and show them off for the first time.
Well, we're doing a development program for Mazda. It's a 3-rotor Mazda engine. It's the only one running in this country. It's progressively getting better. The engine has been fine since the beginning. The systems are complex. It's a relatively difficult race car to sort out, but we've now run 4 races and things are going much better than they did initially. So we look forward to the short tracks because even though it is a 3-rotor engine, we're still the baby in horsepower in GTO. So until we further develop the engine to gain more horsepower, we're still working with less horsepower than most of the other cars. So a track like West Palm is better suited to this type of car. Look forward to it.
Unlike a lot of track locations where fans don't often get the opportunity to get too close to the race cars unless they buy those paddock passes and are ready for a long walk, at West Palm they kind of get an opportunity to just walk across the street and be right there under one roof with the race cars. As a driver and a car owner, how do you feel about that? Do you like the fans getting close?
Absolutely. We spend thousands of dollars to make our transporters attractive, to make our cars attractive. We always welcome people around the race car to look at it. That's part of the business. I mean, we're here to advertise the Mazda product or the products that we use in our racing effort. And unless the fans get to talk about it, we're not accomplishing what we're set out to do. So yes, it's ideal.
You had to send a message to the folks at West Palm that saw you win GTO last year, and now you're bringing a new car with a new class to conquer. What would you tell the folks in West Palm?
Watch out, we're coming back, and keep working hard because we think it's an excellent location.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.